All right, everybody, welcome back to Beans No Ball here for the Week 14 edition of Sunday Chat. I see got a good amount of news to get into, so obviously no further ado, let's just get right into it, Christian.
Yes, let's start off with one of the big headlines of this week, which was the investigation that was going on with Joe Burrow's injury. So they concluded that there was no evidence in the injury report. So I guess the whole point of it was if they were purposely trying to re-injure the hand that he injured before, and it clearly looks like it was not. So obviously anybody can draw their own conclusion about this, and the NFL is I guess rigged, or they're just doing this to cover it up. I'm not too sure. I'm not really, too sure about this one. I'm pretty sure the fans can just pretty much keep it think how this investigation went. But from the NFL's point of view, there is no violation with it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you could probably start speculating that they probably just kept it under wraps for whatever reason. But I mean, at the end of the day, what happened, and their investigation is concluded. So, moving into some big news from last night. Obviously, this was something. Pretty big news. Obviously, the Heisman Trophy presentation. Four big candidates that we've probably talked about a good amount here, and Jayden Daniels, the quarterback from LSU, came away with it. Obviously, I mean, in my own opinion, he was the more deserving candidate. I honestly did expect it to go to Bo Nix. He did seem to have a lot of the favoritism from the college football world, but thankfully, for my opinion, Jayden Daniels did get this award. He was obviously pretty big for them. Obviously, their second Heisman quarterback since 2019, obviously, in Joe Burrow. And I joked with you, obviously, I've been saying it a lot. I mean, ever since a couple weeks ago, I've been expecting, if he's there for the Rams, definitely is someone that I would love to see him take. But seeing that he did just get the Heisman, this is probably going to shoot his draft stock up, probably out of our range from here on out.
Yeah, without a doubt. I know you're joking about the Rams getting, which I mean it's quite kind of ideal now. If we really think about it, there is a big possibility since him winning the Heisman, it does boost up his draft stock. But I think it was a pretty well deserved winner. I know a lot of people can make the argument whether Michael Penix Jr. would win that, but obviously the clear winner, it seems to be like it is Jayden Daniels. And now moving on to Chargers team, which is another news between this team, is Austin Ekeler. He will get reduced snaps for his recent struggles. This was kind of expected coming to later in the season. I mean, week one he was he had a great game against the Dolphins, and then he got injured, came back against that Cowboys game, and then that's where his struggles started to be, really not looking like that top dog Austin Ekeler that he was last year and the seasons before. I guess it's kind of the right move, to be honest, but I think boosts his morale a little bit. But I mean, it's not really gonna help the Chargers either way. I mean, they're already mediocre as it is enough. Their playoff chances are kind of slim. So I guess given Ekeler reduced chances, I guess it's somewhere right in the good move in the future. But regardless, I don't think it's gonna help him anyway. To finish out the season.
Yeah, obviously this kind of boost that narrative of the running backs are very much replaceable. Obviously, we see they do have Joshua Kelly in their back pocket that they're going to see how much he can fare in that position. But this kind of does strengthen that running back narrative. Of course, keeping it with the Chargers, we got some pretty interesting news about their star pass rusher Khalil Mack. Reports have come out that he was apparently very close to retirement after last season, after the infamous 27-0 choke job against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, we had our own definite opinions about that game. You could definitely see how Khalil Mack felt about this. I mean, thankfully though, with him wanting to stay, he got to come back for arguably one of his best seasons. To this point, he has, I believe, 15 sacks. He's up there at their leaderboards. I don't remember the exact standings, but obviously, he's up there. If it wasn't for guys like DaRon Bland and Myles Garrett and TJ Watt, he would definitely be one of the front runners for Defensive Player of the Year. And obviously, we're very thankful to still be able to watch him play. And hopefully, if the Chargers do make it, which they probably won't, if they do make it, they won't have to fare this type of heartbreak once again.
Yeah, honestly, that was quite a surprise that Khalil Mack would want to consider retiring after that. I mean, he was starting off with the Raiders, going to the Bears, and now the Chargers, kind of here and there. Kind of surprising to see, but like you said, I'm kind of glad he didn't, since he is having, such a great season for him. And regardless of the Chargers' success, he's still having a great season for himself. And keep it in the AFC, still more Jets news. Zach Wilson is reported that they will be trying to trade him this offseason. Obviously, with the struggles he's been having once again this season with the loss of Aaron Rodgers, and see where Zach Wilson can bring this team until Rodgers' return. And we said before, rather have Rodgers sit out, really refresh, regroup, get the therapy he needs for the start of next season. But trading Zach Wilson, I mean, you're really not gonna get much. I mean, first round pick, he's probably gonna go down to what, fifth rounder, maybe a sixth. I don't really expect him to be traded for more than the fourth.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that draft pick on obviously it's tough to say bust because of the situation he was put into, but obviously we look back at that pro day and the whole situation, all because of that pro day he shot all the way to number 2. But hey, at the end of the day, he is gonna get that starting job back. He will basically have an audition to see who he can go to and be a backup for. And honestly, we probably expect to see this type of Trey Lance type of scenario. Maybe he'll obviously be traded for a very late round pick. And of course, we'll move it into one last little bit of news and some pretty big news here for the big man on the line. Pretty nice to see when we get big guys get paid. And obviously with Austin Jackson, one of a former USC guy that I don't know how much you remember seeing him at USC, but I do remember he was a very solid tackle for USC, and obviously he's definitely made a name for himself out on the Dolphins, and he's getting paid handsomely for it at 3 years and $36 million. Obviously, really a big thing that the Dolphins are doing to really bolster up that line to keep Tua happy, to keep him protected, which that was a big narrative we did have to get into last year. Probably wasn't doing his job that much last year, but definitely a bit of a resurgence for Jackson here, and he is he's getting rewarded for it, and good for him. Hopefully the Dolphins can bolster up that line even more, see who they can build around Jackson, and to keep this offense to the point that they do want them to stay.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, this is kind of another example of, Bolden kind of does work after last season where he wasn't really, playing that well. And this season, he's been playing really phenomenal. So worth all the money for that Dolphins O-line.
And so, of course, we'll move it back into cash or trash. Obviously, last week we went right back up to quarterbacks, and seems like we keep splitting every single week here. Obviously, my cash pick was very much a surprise with, I thought it was a lock with Justin Herbert against that Patriots defense, and clearly, obviously that was probably the worst game of the year, and obviously Brock Purdy did phenomenal against that Eagles defense, so, you take that one pretty handily. And for trash, a little more even, but, Bailey Zappi, same in that pretty horrible game. He also had himself a pretty big shitter, and Will Levis, not that much better himself, but, at the end of the day, not as bad as Bailey Zappi. Of course, now we'll move it into running backs. As we say, it is getting a little, the pickings are getting a little slimmer, but we do have a couple guys that we can obviously, fall back on. For me, I'm gonna get started on Alvin Kamara. Just probably hasn't had the production that we probably expected of him. He's been a little up and down for what it's worth, but going into this game against the Carolina Panthers, that defense at the same time, we always talk the Panthers defense up, but they really haven't been, playing up to the standard that, the team itself has been pretty like, the worst team in the league, but, you usually think that defense has been the bright spot. That wouldn't really expect them to be much of a factor. I expect Alvin Kamara to really have a lot of success on the run game. And as for trash, I'm going to go with one of my guys on fantasy, and Alexander Mattison. Obviously, he's been riding my bench for a long time, and definitely you can see why here. It isn't the best defense here, obviously, against Vegas, but, they definitely got some great pieces. There's somewhat of a resurgence that they've been coming on. I do expect them to stifle him pretty well, and I expect Max Crosby to be a big factor of that.
Yeah, now with my cash and trash picks, starting out with my cash, I'm going to go with one of your guys, actually, Kyren Williams. He's been a big factor to this Rams offense after, having a quick resurgence, making that playoff push. So, but they're going up against a really good Ravens team. So hopefully, that running game can get started early for Matthew Stafford, and Kyren Williams can have another big game. And as for my trash pick, I'm going to go with Khalil Herbert from the Bears. He was injured for, the past couple of weeks, and he's finally, I think he's been back, if I'm not mistaken, and since he is their number one, I'm not really going to see too much production here for the most part, especially since they're going to get up against the Lions. And it was a very close game against the Lions, don't get me wrong, but Khalil Herbert, he's been having, quite some iffy games lately.
Yeah, obviously, you never know with the Bears after they played a really good game against the Lions last time out. And of course, I'd love to see that appreciation for Kyren Williams. Love to see him getting up there as of late. And of course, we've been kind of swapping around a little bit of what we want to do after these two. We got the two mainstays in news and cash or trash. Now we're kind of just experimenting a bit as the season turns out, and gonna try to throw out this little a little bit of fantasy tips for you guys to honestly, it might be a little late by the time this comes out, but at least give it a shot. We'll start with some who to start, who to sit. As for me, I'm gonna be covering quarterbacks and running backs. So I'll start for my quarterback that should probably be starting, Jake Browning. This one, I mean, obviously, we talked about it a little bit. We talked about it with a lot of quarterbacks that, you never know. He's one of those. I mean, we've seen so many guys go down, so many backups have to come in. You never know with Browning. I mean, he had that really great Monday nighter again against Jacksonville, and is this going to be a one-hit wonder? It's hard to tell just yet, but the way they're going against an Indy defense that I'm not too high on after obviously they look pretty. I mean, not too injury riddled, but they lost their only big name, so I'm expecting I'm expecting him to keep on that pace, even though I do expect Indy to pull this one out. I expect it to be more of a shootout because of two pretty lackluster defenses. And for my guy to sit, we talked about him at length. He was one of our surprises of the season, but I'm going to have to go with Josh Dobbs. He's obviously been on a pretty heavy downward trajectory. The Vikings as a whole have kind of been falling off. So as I just mentioned with Alexander Madison, for my trash running back, I also expect Josh Dobbs to kind of struggle against this Raiders defense. So, I mean, as a whole, I'm going with the Raiders. So a lot of these things line up. And as for running back, for someone y'all should start, I'm going to go with Javonte Williams of the Broncos. This is kind of a game that, honestly, it's going to be a crapshoot to who's going to get the production. I really do expect, obviously, I don't know, I guess you could call it lackluster defenses for the most part, but I'm going to, more on the Chargers side, I do expect Javonte Williams to have more of a productive game. So I don't think, if he's one of those guys that you got on the fringe, definitely start him. As for someone to sit, you're probably not going to like this one, but I'm going to go with Tony Pollard. I guess, he has kind of, picked it up as of late, but we see how he did against Philly, and you could argue he's going to have a bounce back, but I don't think Philly's gonna have another horrendous game like they did against the Niners. I believe they're on a bounce back. I believe Pollard's kind of due for probably a little bit of an off game. So I mean, I still believe Dallas is gonna come away with it handily, but I don't think Pollard's gonna have much of an effect on that win.
Yeah, honestly, not too mad about that pick, especially Pollard's been picking it up, but still. Now with me covering the receivers, a receiver to really look into the start is Rashee Rice. Obviously, with the upward and upward and downward decline and upward rise of the Kansas City Chiefs, have been going on these past couple of games. It's that offense that's not really doing him justice, especially with Mahomes. Lots of drops his receivers are doing. But Rashee Rice is one guy to look at since he's been stepping up these past couple of games, looking like a main target for Mahomes. Especially Travis Kelce's been having a shitter. He's been having shitters these past couple of games as well. So obviously that's one great thing to look at, especially like last week he had a pretty good game as well. So Mahomes to Rashee Rice is going to start looking like a pretty good duo. And then a receiver to sit, I'm going to go with D-Hop from the Titans. I mean, D-Hop, he's been having, some pretty okay games, here and there. But obviously, without the production of the Titans are, and Will Levis still kind of, still trying to get there, I just don't see too much going on for D-Hop as well. And then as for the tight ends, I guess Kyle Pitts is one guy to probably start. I mean, sure, yeah, he's been having a little less production here and there, but obviously, the Falcons are kind of coming close to, securing that playoff spot. Obviously, the race for that. I would assume Arthur Smith would kind of want to get your main target, Kyle Pitts, involved more in the pass game. And then a tight end assist, Tyler Conklin, who is, one of my guys, unfortunately. But, I've been having problems with tight end all season. With Tyler Conklin, especially in that Jets offense and ran by Zach Wilson, I just don't see much production going from him as well. He's been, at least, he got me like 10 one time, but I think pretty much all garbage time yards. So, obviously, Tyler Conklin, he is one guy to sit out, especially, just how lackluster that Jets offense is.
Yeah, obviously, you never know with those tight ends. Those shots are always a crapshoot unless you're talking about Travis Kelce. So we'll just have to wait and see for that one. Of course, that is going to wrap us up. It's still kind of just experimenting a bit, like we've been saying. But course, that does it for our week 14 Sunday chat. Hopefully you guys get to stick around for many more of these. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.